Hello, welcome to Serious About Law, a periodic podcast hosted by me, Merritt McAlister, the Dean at University of Florida Levin College of Law, where we have conversations that are semi-serious, you might say, about the law, but while not taking ourselves too seriously in the process, where we try to highlight things that are going on and happening here at the University of Florida Levin College of Law, meeting with students, faculty, alumni, visitors to campus for current, future honorary Gators out there in the community. I'm really pleased today to have with me our very first real faculty guest, Michael Allan Wolf, Professor Michael Allan Wolf. And I say real because our very first podcast was with Dean Joe Mandernock, who, despite trying, is not, quote unquote, a real faculty member. But Professor Wolf is a real faculty member. Not only that, he also has a PhD. So you are doubly real, not just a JD faculty member, but a JD and a PhD faculty member, right, Professor Wolf?
I am JD, PhD, and not AI.
And not AI.
Yeah.
That's so you are a real live
professor.
Law professor.
Yes.
Here at the University of Florida Levin College of Law.
Yes, that is true.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's what we're going for. A real law school here. In fact, we're sitting in a room, brick and mortar, all of that. Thank you, Professor Wolf, for being our very first real faculty participant in this podcast.
You're welcome.
I'd like to start with little Michael Wolf. Lakeland? Is that
Lakeland?
Lakeland
yes.
is home?
Yes.
Lakeland. Tell me about Lakeland.
Lakeland? Lakeland is the citrus capital of the world. At least it was before the various blights hit the citrus crops in Florida. And it sits right in the middle of the state. Between Tampa and Disney World on Interstate 4. Interstate 4 is for those of you who don't know Florida yet, it's the east-west interstate that slices the state of Florida in half between its northern and southern halves. And Lakeland is right corridor. In the middle.
Yeah.
Right, Lakeland's right in the middle.
Okay. What was your childhood like?
A very nice childhood. Lakeland is a small city in Polk County. I like to say that Polk County is the Florida of Florida. When reports of Florida man doing something, there's a 90% chance that it comes out of Polk County, Florida.
Polk? Is that how we pronounce it?
Those of us from Polk County pronounce it Polk County.
Like
actually,
P-O-K-E, it's actually spelled.
It's Polk County. It's actually named after James K. Polk, the United States president, but that's a marker.
L
it's a marker
Lakeland.
For people from Polk County that they'll say Polk. People from Lakeland, Winter Haven, Auburndale, Lake Wales, Bartow, the county seat. We all, if we pronounce it right. And so, it was a pleasant place to grow up. Central Florida has the weather of Florida and the politics of Alabama.
Okay. I think I'm going to leave that. We won't touch that for a minute. Just because I know Professor Wolf well enough to know we probably should leave that. So was law part of what you wanted to do when you were a young person?
Yes. I can honestly say that people of a certain age, my age cohort, that a lot of us wanted to be lawyers because we watched Perry Mason on TV.
That's dating Professor Wolf just a little bit.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching Perry Mason, and I enjoyed the courtroom scenes, especially. He would win every case because he would be able to expose witnesses lying. He would get defendants to confess on the stand, which, as we know, happens all the time. And it was a great show. And because I was obsessed with television, I think that's why I wanted to become a lawyer.
So from a young age, you went to undergrad with a goal and a mind towards a law career.
Yes, I went to Emory, and I thought that I was going to become a lawyer, even though most of my friends, fraternity brothers, were pre-med or pre-dent, which is what Emory was like. I think it still is. There were those of us who wanted to become lawyers. And so that was what I had in mind. That was my goal, to go to law school until about the end of my junior year. At the very time that I was preparing my applications for law school, I decided that I might not want to be a lawyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What
I thought that I wanted to become a professor.
Okay.
So
But you can be a law professor, which is the best of both worlds.
I didn't even think about that.
Okay.
I took a lot of American history courses and a lot of American literature courses. I loved them. I had Emory was an ideal place for me to go to school. Professors were very approachable and knowledgeable. And I really thought that I admired what they did. I wanted to do what they did. I wanted to do scholarship. I love to read, always loved to read. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I applied to graduate school and law school at the same time my senior year. I didn't think, I didn't really have anybody advising me. I didn't think to apply to a joint degree program. There were a few of them out there. So I just applied to a number of law schools, a number of graduate schools, got into both, and made a deal with myself that if I got into a highly ranked law school that I would go. And the interesting thing was that I knew several faculty members at Emory. I knew them from the classroom. I knew them from other settings. And everybody up to the last person I talked to said, Michael, if you have any desire to become a lawyer, you should become a lawyer because there are no jobs in education. There are no jobs for history professors. And so that's when I decided I did get into a highly ranked law school. And that's when I decided. Then the last conversation I had was with a faculty member, and I'll never forget it. He was an English professor, and he told me his story, which was that he was going to go to medical school. And at the last moment, he decided he didn't want to be a doctor. He wanted to be an English professor, and it was the greatest decision he ever made. Of course, that was after I had decided not to go to graduate school.
Okay.
And so then I ended up going to law school.
You went to law school. You went to Georgetown.
I did.
I won't, still a very good school.
Yes, it has. Sorry, it's a school that has a very good reputation. I think that's an objective statement that I can make.
Yes.
About Georgetown.
What was your experience like in law school?
I hated law school.
Uh-oh. Why? Law school's
it was
awesome,
really
Michael.
exciting to be in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
When I was there, the eyes of the world were on Washington, D.C. because just a few weeks before, the President of the United States had actually resigned under threat of impeachment. And so it was like a breath of fresh air. We had a new president.
Right.
And out with the old, in with the new. It was really exciting to be in Washington. I'd always been interested in politics as well as law, and what better place to study than Washington. And that newness rubbed off after about 6 weeks.
Really?
And after about 6 weeks, I had the doldrums that I see today in the eyes of spring semester 3Ls. It's like, I want to get out of this place. And so for the next 2.5 years, that was how I felt. I wanted to get out of that place.
We might edit that part out because people here are not experiencing those doldrums, right, Michael?
Sure they are.
No. Truth talk. We were like on the fence about whether to invite Professor Wolf because you never know exactly what you're getting. It's true. There's a stressful time in every semester.
3Ls are, it's 3Ls are a little on the board side.
Oh, sure.
Did I say 2Ls?
You said... I don't know. You said 3Ls? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
okay,
3Ls are.
All right, sorry,
3Ls are looking forward to starting their jobs.
But you experienced that as a 1L.
As a 1L.
Okay,
so just imagine that.
Yes.
Just imagine that combination of boredom and cynicism and anxious to get out.
What do you attribute that to? You just didn't like learning about the law or something in the environment, or you wanted to do something more direct in the world?
I wasn't sure what it was until I went to graduate school. And then I met professors at a different law school who were intellectually engaged with the law. And I didn't get the sense that was true of the professors who taught me. I felt that law, not that there's anything wrong with business school, but if I wanted to go to business school, I would have gone to business school. I thought there was too much business in law.
Okay.
And
not enough ideas, not enough
right,
sort of thinking
right.
and ideas. Okay.
So I was more interested in the intellectual content,
Right.
and I was not seeing a lot of that. And look, there were some very bright professors at Georgetown. Maybe I just missed them. I did know a couple, but for the most part, it was not. I did not find it intellectually rigorous.
Okay.
So I was bored a lot.
Well, you are very bright.
Well, I wasn't and I like to tell my students they do much better in law school than I did. I was just in the middle of my class, did not distinguish myself in any way. The only thing I did academically that I distinguished myself in and really enjoyed was I was in my third year, I was in a criminal defense clinic, and I actually had clients that I defended in D.C. Superior Court, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's what I wanted to do. Remember, I wanted to be Perry Mason. I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. Right. I got to be a criminal defense attorney and then realized that I did not want to do that for the rest of my life. Okay. So it was a very valuable experience. I also worked in a law firm when I was in law school. So I had some really positive experiences. You would have thought that based on that, I would have been really excited about being a lawyer, but it just didn't turn out that way. I worked in a boutique litigation firm, and it was great. It was in Tyson's Corner near where I lived. Mm-hmm. It was very convenient. I worked there for 2 summers, but decided I didn't want to do that either.
I feel like very convenient is not necessarily a ringing endorsement for a
job.
It
was the people. The people were very nice.
Okay, no,
and they were doing litigation. It wasn't criminal, but in other words, what I'm saying is that for many people wanting to become lawyers, that's the ideal kind of firm, a boutique firm, particularly if you're into litigation.
Hands-on, small, right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever practice law other than the summers?
No,
okay, I didn't think so.
No. I had clients in my clinic, but I was supervised.
Right.
But no, I went.
You went directly into grad school.
To grad school, right?
Which was to get a PhD in history from
American.
Harvard.
It was called the History of American Civilization.
Okay,
but I guess that was too. I don't know, too 1930s for modern people. So now it's called American Studies. Okay, which those of us who were in the program called it AmCiv.
Okay,
we sort of were resentful because it was the first. The AmCiv program at Harvard was actually predated the American Studies program at Yale, and for some reason they decided to take the Yale name. So those of us who were old hats sort of resented that. So
American Civilization,
History of American
Civilization. Mm-hmm. Was that what you were looking for?
It turns out it was exactly what I was looking for.
Why?
Well, it was a perfect program. I had not applied to that program. I was not aware of it. Again, I didn't get much counseling when I was in college on this, but I wasn't aware of the program. I was aware of other American Studies programs. Harvard's is a program in which you have to have 3 areas. You have to prepare general examinations, oral examinations in 3 areas. One of those areas, for me, the major area was American history. Another area, you chose 100 years. If you chose American history, then you could choose 100 years of American literature. Mm-hmm. So I chose 100 years of American literature.
Do you pick the 100 years, like the time period?
I had to read novels, multiple novels by major and short stories by major American writers for a 100-year period. Mm-hmm. And then then you get to choose a third field. It could be history of education, religion. Mm-hmm. For me, it was natural, legal history. So I studied American legal history with Mort Horowitz at Harvard, and he was one of the people that I got to know who was intellectually challenged. Mort's a very bright man. He was intellectually challenged by law, and I thought to myself, I spent 3 years in a law school. I think I missed something. So
what did you miss?
I just missed certain aspects of law that were less on the practical side.
The theory,
And
the
more
idea
on
side.
the conceptual side. I wouldn't even say theoretical. I would say conceptual.
Okay. So that led you then to the path of a law professor. Did you go direct? You went directly from the PhD program into
right. In fact, yes.
Did you start at Richmond? Is that where?
No. I started at Oklahoma City University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I should have known that. Yeah.
I became clear that what the advice that I had been given back at Emory, which is there aren't any jobs in history, that turned out to be true. And
But you had a JD. See how useful that was?
It was very useful. I'm very thankful for my professors at Georgetown because they gave me the degree that made my the best job in the world possible. But I didn't see it that way at the time. I worked when I was at Harvard, I had several jobs, and one of the jobs I had was a research assistant. It was actually a research director for a professor at the law school named Charles Haar. And Charles happened to teach property and land use. He was one of the first land use professors in the country. He had worked in the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the Johnson administration, and he had a lot of connections politically and otherwise. And I worked very closely with Charles, and he was, and I use this term advisedly, he was brilliant. And it was a wonderful, demanding experience to work with somebody who was that knowledgeable. And again, as with Professor Horowitz, to see, wow, there's something about the law that turns these people on intellectually, and I wanted to know what that was. So it was a great job. He needed somebody who had a background in law and history, and I was the perfect person for that job.
Yeah.
So,
So is that what started you? You're I don't know. How would you define yourself as a scholar? Do you define yourself as a property land use scholar, as a legal historian, as all of that?
All of it. I would, yeah. I mean, if people know me, they know me for the fact that I was the general editor for many years, but now the author of the leading property treatise, Powell on Real Property. More likely, they know my scholarship in the land use area, zoning law, and zoning history. And of course, the only reason I got into those two fields was because I worked with Charles. So that when I decided to become a law professor, which was a much better job than becoming a history professor, and the prospects were much greater.
Sure.
I had to choose fields that I would have some expertise in. And given the research that I'd done with Charles, it was natural that I would do, not based on my education as a law student, but based on my education as a graduate student or as someone working when I was in graduate school. That's what I did. So I advertised myself as an expert in property, land use, real estate law, and as somebody who was also interested in constitutional history.
Okay. So let's pause because some of our audience, may not know what all of that means. First, I'm curious, what is a treatise? You are the author of the Powell's on Real Property, which is one of is the leading treatise in property law. What is a treatise?
A treatise is a summary of legal doctrine in an area. So, in the area of real property law, there are hundreds of cases each year, actually thousands of cases each year that are decided by appellate courts throughout the United States.
Do you have to read all of them?
I don't have to read every single one of them. I try to read about every state Supreme Court case, every United States Supreme Court case, every United States Court of Appeals case that has something to do with property law.
That's a lot.
And I have to do it 4 times a year. So I review hundreds of cases 4 times a year and decide from that database, I draw, what I consider the leading cases. And then the treatise itself explains legal doctrines, explains what are the elements of a deed that transfers property from A to B? How can you acquire property by adverse possession, which is legalized theft? How does the government exercise eminent domain to take property to build a park? And there are cases on that. And the treatise explains what the rules are, what the doctrine is. And then in support, it cites cases. And so I change the text if the doctrine is changing. And I add additional cases to the footnotes with quotations in parentheses from every case that I cite. So it
sounds like a lot of work. Do you use students to help you?
I used to, but I don't anymore.
Okay, because you're that good?
No, it's not that I'm that good.
Oh,
it's
he's that good.
No, there's a problem with I'm always nervous about using students because I always have to check their work because my name is going on the product, and I'm always afraid of I'd be accused of plagiarism or get something wrong. So it turns out it wasn't efficient.
Okay,
it's not an efficient system. I've come up with a very efficient system for doing this treatise. I also have a treatise in land use as well.
Let's talk about land use law. What is that? I think most people may not realize that is a field.
It's zoning, planning, and eminent domain.
Okay.
So most people know what zoning is because they'll say, "Oh, my property is zoned for residential use, or my property is zoned for commercial or industrial use." So there are a lot of intricacies in zoning law that a lot of terms of art, a lot of legal devices that are pertinent only to local government law, to land use law, which is part of local government law, and it's a discrete area of the law where you can talk about decisions that really affect people's lives and pocketbooks.
I lived in Houston for 6 years, which is where I learned about land use law. What you chuckled? Why do you chuckle?
Yeah. Well, Houston has this reputation. It's the only major city in the United States that doesn't have zoning. But the reason I chuckle is because Houston has a system of land use regulations that are very, very sophisticated. It's just that they don't have this thing called Euclidean zoning. Euclidean zoning is regulations of the heights of buildings, the area of buildings, and it's how what the footprint of a building, how close to the street can a building be located, how close to a neighbor can a building be located, and then use classifications. Now, there are height restrictions, there are area restrictions, there are even use restrictions by means of covenants in Houston, and those covenants are enforced by law to a greater extent in Houston than probably anywhere else in the country. There are other forms of land use regulation, but technically Houston does not have zoning. It's called Euclidean zoning, not directly because it refers to Euclid, the geometrician, but only indirectly. We call it Euclidean zoning because of the Supreme Court case that approved zoning almost 100 years ago called Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company. And so it's only indirectly referring to Euclid. It turns out the Village of Euclid was named after Euclid, the geometrician, because it was a piece of land that was given to the surveyors when they first surveyed this land for white settlement back in the early 19th century.
See, this is a legal historian and an expert in land use law all in one package, because you can give the history of the case as well as the doctrine. I should note at this point in time that I did not take land use law, and property was not my favorite subject.
Wasn't mine either.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but you teach it now, obviously.
Yes.
You like teaching it.
Yes. I went up to my property professor one time. She was a distinguished scholar and a leader in the legal academy for many years. And I saw her at a convention of law professors, and I finally got up the courage to go and say hello to her. I introduced myself. I was one of 150 students in her class. This is not the kind of class we have at the University of Florida.
No class that large.
And so she didn't know me. I introduced myself, and I said, "You were one of my professors." And she said, "What did I teach you?" And I said, "Property." And she said, "I'm sorry." So we both agreed. It was not. It was a foolish assignment. She is a very bright lawyer. I don't sense that she had any background or interest in property law, but she was just assigned this course. But she did just fine for herself.
But it did not light a spark or a passion for you in property. That came later.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your teaching, sort of your approach to teaching. Obviously, we don't have classes that are 150 people. It's smaller. You've been a teacher for a long time. You're a very popular teacher. How do you sort of approach the classroom? What do you think your role is as the facilitator of learning in a law school classroom?
Well, at a school like the University of Florida, I like to think that my students have no difficulty understanding the reading after the first couple of months of learning what it's like to read a law case, which is very difficult. Reading a case is very difficult. As I tell my students, what takes you 2 hours during your first 2 months of legal education will, when you're a 2L, will take you 10 minutes. It's just a skill that you acquire by doing. But I do have an obligation, I think, to teach legal doctrine, but it's just boring to teach legal rules. So at a school like the University of Florida, I look at each class as the way I would look about writing a law review article. So I want to have a theme, I want to have a thesis, and I wanted to try to explain to the students how they can take those readings and they sort of wrap them around this thesis. So it means that I mix lecture with calling on volunteers. I don't unlike many of my colleagues, I don't like to cold call on students. I didn't like it when I was in law school. It's one of the things I really disliked about law school. But some people do it very well. I will on occasion call on students, but I always allow them to pass if they're not prepared. There's no reason to torture a student or anybody.
Yeah.
So I like to think that there's a theme. So that requires a little bit of lecture mixed in with sort of the give and take between the professor and student.
Yeah, I like that. It's similar. I haven't written law review articles for my life, but I tend to approach class like an oral argument where I have 3 points I want to make sure the students get. I was an appellate lawyer beforehand. So I think we all have a way of communicating that seems to echo sort of our day jobs, as it were. What do you sort of look for in the classroom from students, right? What makes a successful student in that give and take?
I appreciate it when my students are prepared and when they're intellectually curious. Those are the two things that I'm looking for. So you can often tell whether a student is prepared or is looking at a canned answer. And there's no real reason to. Again, this is something that was done when I was in law school. Sometimes a student who was not prepared would be called on, and the professor would take advantage of that. And I don't think that my colleagues do that. I know I don't do that. Right, right. Sort of to convey the lesson. There's a price to pay for not being prepared in my class. Yeah. There's no price to be paid for not being prepared in my class. The only thing is, I suspect you won't get the lesson, and you'll have to work a little harder after class or talk to your classmates. So I appreciate when the students are prepared, and I appreciate when they're intellectually curious. In other words, where they see things in the case that their classmates don't see, and often that I don't see. And I learn a lot from my students. I should really give them more attribution in my footnotes, but I do learn a lot from my students and from the questions that they ask and from the answers that they gave me to my questions.
Are you still learning from students after quite a few years in the classroom?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do it if I weren't learning.
Yeah.
It's like I said to my son about a year ago, I was grading, and I said, I finally figured out why I hate grading so much. Professors don't like grading.
Yeah.
Just like students don't like taking exams, professors don't like grading exams.
Really don't.
And I said, the reason I don't like I figured it out. My favorite things to do is to read. I read all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a voracious reader. My sister, when she was younger, was a voracious reader. And I was in third place in the family. But that's not bad. 3 out of 6 is not bad. And so I've always loved to read, and I love to read books. And so reading is one of my favorite things in the world to do because I'm learning. Mm. But when I read exams, I'm not learning anything because they're basically regurgitating what I've taught them.
And it's the same thing over
and over again.
Yeah.
So the difference is the classroom. So in the classroom, I can really learn things. I can hear things that I've never heard before. And it's really great. In a course like property, there are some very difficult concepts that students come across, like the rule in Shelley's case or the rule against perpetuities. And it's really great when you can actually see a student get it. And I tell them there's going to be a point where you're going to get this. And it's so much fun when it actually happens in class. You can actually physically see it. You can actually see a student have that look, it's like, I've got it. Yeah. I've got it. And, and sometimes you can have it and then lose it, but you want to hold on to it before you're examined on it so that you remember it. But yeah, there are those aha moments that are fun. They're still fun to see. But again, I get aha moments too, because my students tell me things that they give me perspectives. From their perspective, they tell me things that I've never seen.
What's your favorite part of this job as a law professor? It's a pretty good gig. I miss it many days because I don't get all the fun of this role.
Right.
What do you enjoy most about being a law professor?
I enjoy. It's easier for me to say, if you don't mind, to rephrase your question.
Sure.
What are the parts that I don't enjoy?
Fine. Sure.
Okay.
Because you like so much of it.
Yeah. There's so much to like. I don't like grading.
Yeah. I don't think anyone does.
Right. And I don't like committee work.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah, I don't like I like.
Is this a pitch to not be on a?
No. I like. You've been on committees with me before.
I know.
I like service. I like doing certain things.
You're very engaged.
It's just committee work is what It's just there's a lot of lost energy in bringing people up to speed and listening to other people's ideas that I don't endorse. It's something I don't like to do, which is why I've never been an administrator, because that's something that you have to do. You have to listen to people. Sometimes you're in a room and you know where you want to go, and you have to wait for everybody else to get there. And I'm a little impatient, but no, all the rest of it, I really enjoy. I love talking to my students. I love teaching, and I love researching and writing. So all of that, I love researching, and I love it when I find students who also enjoy researching.
Yeah, I do think law professoring is probably among the greatest jobs out there.
I think so.
Committee work notwithstanding. Yeah. And I should say Professor Wolf he does his committee work with diligence. He comes to faculty meetings. You are a thoughtful presence on the faculty. So you're not shy of service. It's just the pesky committee stuff.
Committees, right, yeah.
You've been part of UF Law's community for quite a while. What
23 years.
23 years. I knew it was we were in the 20s.
Right.
What as a child, UF must have been in your.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the University of Florida. I'm a Gator by birth.
Right.
My father went to the University of Florida. Yeah.
What do you think makes us distinctive or special as a university, as a law school? What is it about UF?
Well, UF has certainly changed. When I was growing up, there was only one university that was affiliated sort of athletically with Florida that had a positive academic reputation, and that would have been Vanderbilt. In the years that subsequent to this. Like right now, there's not a lot of distance intellectually between Vanderbilt and the University of Florida. I just don't see it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true not only in the law school, but I think in other parts of the university as well. My mother did not go to the University of Florida. She married somebody who did, but because she had a daughter who went here, because my father was such a big fan of the university, she was the biggest cheerleader for the university. And so when the university would add something significant, she would always tell me about it. And I didn't live in Florida between 1970 and 2003. So I was away for more than 30 years.
Wow.
And during all that time, my mother was the biggest cheerleader. She would always tell me about all these things that were happening. So so when the call came from the University of Florida, it was not the same school that I had turned down in 1970 when I decided to go to Emory. It was a much better place, a much better place.
Yeah. I should note for the record that Professor Wolf is wearing a Gator shirt at the moment.
So I'm a big fan. Everybody who knows me knows that I am a big fan of Gator sports. They know that, yeah.
Yeah. Are you more football, basketball, gymnastics?
Well, I'm a football and basketball fan primarily. I have been to the national championship football game, and I have been to the Final Four. Unfortunately, it was not one of the Final Fours that the Gators won, but I follow a lot of the teams.
Okay.
A lot of the teams. Yeah.
Favorite thing to do in Gainesville? Curious.
Favorite thing to do in Gainesville? Well, favorite things to do, they would involve my wife. So they have very little to do with Gainesville.
Okay. Do we get a shout out to Betty? You think she's going to listen to this?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Hello, Betty.
Okay. Good
no,
job.
I mean, the favorite things would have to do with things I do with my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Same for me. Yeah. Let's do a few sort of lightning round closings.
Okay.
Is there anything that students or colleagues might be surprised to learn about you that you're willing to share?
Well, my students used to know this about me because you will find students who had me between the first time I started teaching, which was 1982, and around 2012, maybe, for those years. The students who took me for property would have known that the last day of class, I would have my guitar brought to me and I would sing a song to my students.
Oh, Michael.
I would make up songs based on old rock and roll songs, tunes about property, and have the class sing along. It got to be pretty sophisticated with videos and things like that.
And why did you stop? This predates me.
I have no idea why So some of my colleagues know about that.
Okay. Can we bring a guitar? Today is we're recording this on the last day of class for the semester.
I haven't done it in years. One of the last times I've always said that this is the perfect job, but the second job that I could do is I do a killer Bob Dylan.
Oh.
And I can do Bob Dylan's voice when he could sing.
Really?
And I've always said that I should go on the road with Bob Dylan, and he can sit in the back and mumble and play the guitar and the harmonic and all the rest. And I could sing the way he sang in the 60s.
Oh, wow.
So I did, when one of the previous deans was, we had a going away party for him. I did perform. I wrote a song about him.
Oh, goodness.
And sang it as the 60s Bob Dylan. So that's probably something my colleagues and students don't know about me. I used to be in a rock and roll group, the whole thing.
Will you agree whenever you guys get rid of me, will you agree to sing me off the stage?
I would not look forward to that, getting rid of you. No.
But you'll sing me off the stage.
I will sing you. I don't know. Yes, when you go to become president of the university, I will sing you off the stage.
All right. For students just starting law school, we're going to have some folks who are, we've already admitted the class, so we're getting ready to start here in the fall. What what sort of words of wisdom? What should they be doing over the summer? What do you think they need to do to
I
prepare?
think they should be reading.
Okay.
I think they need
Anything in particular?
Anything. Just get your level of comprehension up, because if you do what your professors want you to do, which is to do the reading, it's a lot of reading. It's overwhelming. And, as I've said, even if you had one subject, for example, if I had the students, they only had one subject, and that was property. I still can't cover all of property.
Right.
If I had you for 12 hours a week, I still couldn't do it.
That sounds awful to me.
There's just so me too. But there's just, the law is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reading, and you just got to get used to reading. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And then that's basically it. Just read. But of course, maybe I'm saying that because I love to read.
Yeah. But it's good. I always say that one of the most important things you can learn as a lawyer is to be a good writer. And I think the best way to becoming a good writer is reading.
To write.
Yeah, well, to read. To read good writing.
Yes.
And then
to write.
To write, yes. We really are law professors here, right?
Yeah.
All right, last one. I'm curious, you've 23 years here, more years as a law professor. You still come in all the time, even when you're on sabbatical. Uh-huh. I don't know how you find your way to your desk in your office, because it's a whole separate conversation about Professor Wolf's
I can find
office.
my desk. It's easy to find my desk. It's hard to find a clear space on my desk.
Well, okay, or on the floor for that matter. But putting that aside, after all these years, what still excites you about this job, or coming every day?
First of all, my colleagues, and for better or for worse, they're always coming and going. I mean, I was one of those. I've been on 3 law faculties, so I came and I went from 2 of those faculties and came to 1 faculty, this one. So it's kind of neat to get to know people. I'm often involved in faculty hiring, and that's a lot of fun. It's really, though, it's the 2 major aspects of my job, which are teaching, which is getting to know students, and I've known generations of law students. I also teach undergraduates.
Yeah.
And for the first time this semester, I am teaching a child of someone that I taught in law school.
Oh, wow.
As an undergraduate. And in fact, and she knows this, that when I saw her name, I thought, wait, I think I know who this person is. And I went back to my email and I found her birth announcement.
Oh, wow.
So that's how long I've been teaching here. And so that's nice. It's nice to get to know my students. And, the other thing is is research and writing. I love doing research because I love learning things, and I love writing too. It's, when people talk about professors and they say, when you're on sabbatical, so you're taking it off. What are you doing? I said, what are you doing with it? I said, look, I'm doing everything I would normally do. It's what I'm not doing. I'm not teaching. And so then they think, many people who don't know what professors do, they think, well, then he just told me he's not doing anything because he's not teaching.
You're at home watching Netflix all the day.
Yeah.
Right?
You run out of programs real fast.
Yeah.
No, I'm just continuing to write. That's what I love doing research, and I love writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Professor Wolf,
for
being here as our first real faculty guest. I appreciate it. No one better to start with in that process. You've made a real mark here for many years, decades of students. Next time we'll talk about the undergrad class. I taught undergrads this year, and it's a lot of fun. I think we had some of the same students in common, but our undergrads are very good here.
Oh, so, very, very good.
Yeah,
very good.
It's an excellent experience. Well, thank you, Michael. Happy grading, because it's that time of year.
Thank you.
Don't be late with your grades, okay?
I will not be late with my grades.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.